this is a little, for me, like, you know, the preacher talking to the choir. I'm going to be talking about the value of print to you at the largest assemblage of, you know, print graphics in North America. So from that standpoint, it's a little strange, but I think what the purpose of today is not just to talk about traditional print, but what the real meaning of print and what the real value of that is in other types of communication and where we should be going into the future. So, you know, you can't help but walk around here and start noticing the messages of traditional print. Obviously, print is very personal. Print is credible. We know that. It's the basis of the news media. Print is sustainable. Yes, we can recycle it. Yes, it comes from the Forestry Service. We know that print puts the consumers in control. It drives buying decisions. It drives informative situations. We know that. We know the print is tactile. You can pick it up, you can carry it, you touch it, you hold it. That's why people like to read books. That's why people like to read newspapers. They have it in their hands. You can take it, you can scratch and sniff it. In some instances, you can even lick and taste it. Print is very versatile in that situation. We also know that print drives ROI. We know that 78% of the people who buy online from catalog operations spend that time looking through catalogs before they actually make that buying decision on print. So it's there, it directs. All of these things are there, but really that's the traditional notion of print. And what we really want to do is look at, is that the real value that we want to unlock going forward? And I think what we need to do is step back, and if I can borrow from an old business adage, railroads died out because owners thought they were in the railroad business, not the transportation business. It's very important for us in this industry right now to realize that we are in the communication business and not just the print business. And that affects everything else that we're going to be talking about and everything else that we're going to consider in that engagement with the consumer going forward. One of the most important things to understand, and what we were just talking about in terms of being personal, being portable, being tangible, being all that, that really drives integrated campaigns, because what we're really trying to do with integrated campaigns is reach out and touch the consumers, engage them in what it is that we're trying to do in either to buy our goods or use our services. And that's critically important because print does that better than any other medium that's out there. When we look at connecting to the consumers, we're talking about touches. We're really talking not just about images floating out there, we're really talking about reaching out and touching that consumer. And we do that through traditional print. We also do that through email, through point of sale, direct mail, social media, virtual. I mean, you know all of these things. But the key fact of what print does is pull all of this together in a way that none of the other items up there can do, because of the things that we mentioned at the beginning. It's portable, it's tangible, people trust it, all the rest of those things. So as we look at this, that engagement with the consumer, if we look at a Shopper Sciences study commissioned by Google, really breaks it down into three areas. One of stimulus, one of what they call the zero moment of truth, when that buying decision is actually made, and something called the final moment of truth. And you'll see this over and over and over again because packaged goods companies and brand marketers have adopted this type of thinking because, as we'll see, it's rather compelling evidence. So if we look at this, what do these things mean? We look at stimulus. These are the various things that drive people's awareness to a particular good or service. No surprise, television ranks among the top. But look at the next ones coming down: direct mail and catalogs, newspapers and magazines. These are things that make people aware of a good or service. Very traditional marketing aspects. As that buying decision comes closer to being realized, what starts to happen is that the consumer generally tends to go to other electronic media to try and find out more about what they're doing. They're searching the web, they're asking family and friends, they're going online to do comparison shopping, going to manufacturers' websites, product reviews, retailer websites. you notice that that shift has gone from very traditional media of awareness now to very in-depth searching in terms of what the core capabilities or the core features of that product or service is. What happens then is what most marketers are calling that final moment of truth, the point where the consumer is ready to put that credit card down and push the button to buy, or they're in the physical store and they're reaching out to grab a product. Pretty interesting, 50% of the buying decisions, and this is coming out of numerous studies, 50% of the buying decisions are made at the shelf level based on packaging, almost 50% based on brochures and pamphlets, some on sales consultation, more than a third based on retail display activity. This is all print-driven material that's coming back to influence that buying decision. This type of thing is so compelling that P&G redid their entire brand strategy last year in terms of how they're coming to market. And the things that they noticed, and this was off of a Nielsen study, was that in-store marketing clearly beats TV as the leading medium creating awareness of new packaged goods in the store. It's coming back to that buying decision on the shelf that print is influencing. Half the consumers cited in-store as their source of awareness for the particular good or service. They changed their entire strategy to build what the consumer sees at that buying decision and work backwards from there. We have P&G as a client. It's been an interesting road to see how this has shifted and how our advertising and our marketing and our retail placement have changed because of this, because the focus is definitely geared towards what that consumer sees in the store. Something that's also interesting, we're talking about the research that a consumer does and where they're going online. The average shopper now, think about this, the average shopper in 2011 goes to a little over 10 different source channels for information before they make a buying decision. And you say, well, wait a minute, I don't do that when I go to the store. But think about it. What did you see in the newspaper? Were there coupons in the newspaper? Did you see something on TV? Did you get a direct mail piece? Did you get any of these things? All of these are impulses that are coming in. They're the touch points that we're talking about going to the consumers. So this is extremely important in that buying decision in terms of what it is that they're seeing. The interesting thing is that 53% of marketing only use 3 to 5 of these channels. That means that there's a lot of open space out there for the ability to contact and convince consumers about the products that we're using. We have to be very careful though and not just load messages into this, because what the consumers are very, very clear about, and this comes out of a marketing magazine article called Tug of Love, is that consumers are very comfortable right now with direct mail and email of current customers. They like to get that information. 78, 71% people are comfortable. They approve of that. However, we go to the other end of the spectrum and consumers do not like to be approached by text messages through the social media. You can see it's less than 10%, less than 5% of the people really like that. So, as we go into these, there's a myriad of new, social media contacts, channels out there. I mean, we're looking at mobile media itself has like 18 different production platforms that people are reaching out to touch. This is new, and I suspect that this is going to change. But from right now, the consumers feel a tremendous amount of intrusion in their social media. That's not the way they want to be contacted. So what does this tell us? If you're a marketer, the first thing that you have to do is start observing what your consumer situation is. What is going to drive that point of purchase? What is going to drive them to the store to make that purchase? And then you need to evaluate your marketing message. You need to evaluate how you're coming to the shelf, how you're coming with messages to that consumer. Then you need to engage them. How are you going to do that? What kind of messaging are you going to do? What types of things are going to engage your particular consumers? And then, most of all, you've got to deliver that. If you don't deliver it, the rest of it kind of goes away. So what we're doing is transitioning to a future mode. It's not just enough that we push information out there, okay? We need to engage a consumer experience. We need to really look at that as not just a push of information, but we need to bring that consumer in and make them part of the process. We're not just looking for eyeballs anymore. I mean, you look back at traditional media and we say, oh God, we've got this many gross rating points, we attracted this kind of audience. And we know that that's kind of a false floor, because yeah, take the Super Bowl, you're gonna have 48 million people watching it, and when your commercial comes up, 22 of those million get up and go to the bathroom or get a sandwich or get something else, and your message goes right by. So it's not just eyeballs anymore, it's touches, it's those encounters that make it personal to the consumer, that they're going to reach out and use and buy your product. It's not just mass media anymore, it's individualized attention. All of these different channels are approaching people on an individual level, and that's what helps form that buying decision. When you go to the store, you want to be personally approached by that product, and you want to know what it stands for. So what I'd like to do is go through some case studies with you and show you some examples of what the power of all this means when you put it together. When you are able to reach out and engage the consumer, bring them in and give them a buying proposition that they're comfortable with, these things have dramatic impact. Now, I will make a slight apology at this point with the wonders of Mac versus PC and all the rest. I'm gonna have to flip back and forth in this program to play some of these. Several years ago, in 2009, we started a program with Kellogg's that was called the Special K Challenge. And one of the things was to really reach women, particularly between the ages of 18 and 34, and help them continue their efforts after the first of the year to stay on their resolutions, whether that's to eat healthier, whether that's to lose weight, whether that's to become a more healthful person. And part of that was, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do to reach out and grab them? And what was involved in that? When we look at the results of this, and you'll see this a little bit more when I play the video, when you see the results, gross sales, because of this effort, because we reached out through direct mail, through ads, through TVs, through encounters, gross sales went up 53%. That makes any marketer smile. And it became their largest weekly share when we went through this. What was involved, as I said, TV, print, out of home, websites, and online groups. Bear with me just a second. Like I said, this campaign went through TV, print, out of home. You could see how it blanketed the consumer in all possible ways that they could be touched. Probably what we didn't put on here was also engaged in the packaging. So as you picked up the package off the shelf, referenced all the rest of these materials as well. So there was there was constant touching, constant engagement, and constant messaging that went along with the product. To follow that up, that was in 2009. To follow that up, we needed another campaign that was going to be a little bit different, that was going to attract the same target group of women in a very different way. We can't go back and repeat the same thing. So these touches, this engagement has got to be ongoing, because if you're not constantly reaching out and giving new information, new reasons to buy, you're going to lose that consumer, and that's going to be a one-off effort. So what we involved to do was to take the message to them in a very, very different way, but re-engage them. The results of this is, as you'll see in a few minutes, that this effort created over 400,000 Facebook fans, created over 75 million impressions. The sales jumped 2.8% market share, which is huge in that category, became their largest share of category ever. Again, what was involved in this were events, online messaging, social media, a very heavy amount of print, and engagement activities with out-of-home and retail.
Weight's an issue for everybody. I think especially women, weight's a big issue for us.
Because it's okay that men are a little bit overweight, but not a woman.
You know, there's always a situation about weight and how you look.
Can you all hear that?
Well, I actually don't own a scale anymore because it was just too depressing. I always seem to attach my esteem to the number that I see.
I'm pretty constantly, thinking like, oh, if you were just a little bit thinner, if your thighs are just a little bit smaller.
I think you're being really mean to do this to me.
Weighing myself in Times Square is a little frightening.
Wow, it's overwhelming.
It's scary.
Intimidating. Should I weigh myself naked? Can I take my clothes off too?
Let's get it over with. Oh my God. Satisfaction!
Courage. That sounds like me.
I think that's the best word that it could have put on there.
Confidence. I like it.
It's kind of what my grandmother. He's what. 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 The best. He's what. He's what. On there. He's kind of my grandmother. My grandmother.
Jump.
The best.
Jump.
On there.
I like
Kind of
Tell.
my grandmother.
Tell.
The best. On there.
These
On there.
example of
Kind of
power,
my grandmother.
example
My grandmother.
of power, example of power, example of
The best.
product,
On there.
product, 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 product.
I like
Different channel, different channel. You can see that by the continuum of this, we're reaching out and we're looking at the same audience, but we're trying to engage them in different activities in different ways. The creative is on the books for next year, so I can't show you what that is yet, but there is another engagement opportunity that we're looking at, again, to keep spreading that message. Because if you don't do that, you're going to lose that consumer, but more importantly, we've established the vehicles in order to reach out and do that. We had a really interesting opportunity with Walgreens, one of our clients, who came to us and said, look, we're looking at a new service offering that we have to the community, and that's giving flu shots. We struggled with it last year, and we really need to get better at this. So help us look at something that is going to engage the consumers and bring them closer to what we want. We put together a program, and the results were that we were able to, Walgreens was able to do more than 5 million flu shots across the country, which was a 400% increase over the year before. We did it in 5 weeks as opposed to 5 months. Most importantly, they garnered a 70% market share of this service category going forward. Again, the key contributors here, not only TV, print, website, events, social media, direct mail, retail, and the store. Again, a broad-based effort, an integrated approach to bringing that message across.
Walgreens is in the business of keeping people healthy, and flu season's a big part of that. Last year, we gave about 1 million flu shots, which was our best year ever. This year, our CEO asked us to do a little more, like 4 million more.
So we look for the people most receptive to getting a shot at Walgreens, and we discovered a group we call intenders, women who wanted to get shots last year, but for some reason didn't.
I intend to get a shot every fall, but then things happen, like you've got to get your kids shots, you've got to get their school supplies, their clothes for school, this whole list, and then my shot kind of just slides off the end. Yeah.
So how do you persuade someone to get a shot for herself when almost everything she does is for others?
You don't. You flip the equation and help her see that getting a flu shot is doing something for others. A simple, meaningful way to show her love and protect the people she cares about the most.
We needed an iconic way for her to show that love. So we created these heart-shaped Band-Aids where she could write the names of the people that she's protecting by getting a shot. Now, wherever she goes that day, this Band-Aid sticker kind of lets everybody know who she got her shot for, which prompts them to think about who they'd get their shot for. Then they come in for a shot, get a sticker, and the whole thing repeats in the best sort of viral way.
This idea was so contagious that before we ever launched it publicly, it had already started going viral. The enthusiasm spread through our company like wildfire. It rallied everyone from our CEO to our pharmacists and all the folks in our 7,500 stores to arm themselves for the people they love. By the time we launched our media campaign in Times Square, with thousands of real employee photos, the grassroots movement was off and running.
We wanted the idea to pop up where people would already be thinking about the flu. Ever sat on a bus next to the guy sneezing and coughing all the way to work? The idea drove integrated PR efforts like getting America's favorite doctor to arm himself for his audience. It drove the TV and radio spots, which brought it to life 30 seconds at a time, and regional ads where local heroes got a chance to show their civic pride. The integration continued in the circular and online, where flu-related offers helped drive people into the store. We also leveraged social media like Facebook and used digital to drive viral activity by letting people share their heart with those they cared about. Once inside, the idea continued with Arm Yourself signage. It was brought to life by a great interaction with a Walgreens pharmacist, and then immortalized on the Wall of Fame.
The results speak for themselves. We exceeded our goal of 5 million shots, a 400% increase, and we did it in just 5 weeks instead of 5 months, which saved millions in marketing. Plus, we captured 70% of retail flu market share, which meant we delivered something our competitors couldn't touch.
One simple, powerful idea inspired people to take action and got others to join in. Protect the people you care about with a flu shot.
In the end, it helped millions of people avoid getting sick this season.
And it feels great when good news spreads faster than a virus.
You can see what this does for Walgreens, not only because they got 70% of the market share for flu shots, but what that did to their image in the community, what that did to ongoing efforts that they're going to come forward with. People now have connected to the fact that they're taking a very proactive approach for the health of the neighborhood. They're just not, selling stuff off the shelves, and it has put them in a very, very different competitive spot with the rest of the marketplace. Canon, the world of EOS. This was a very interesting campaign that we did down in Australia out of our Sydney office for Canon. Their problem was with the expanding, world of digital photography, with all the players who are non-photographic, so to speak, who are jumping in, the video players and all the rest of this, what their role was going to be in furthering photography. Was this going to get lost in this maze of the digital world, or were they actually going to have a stake involved? And so they came to us and said, we need to not only reposition our brand, increase brand awareness, but we have to move the entire category of photography into more of a consumer experience. We need to really change the ballgame on this and drive home some very, very practical aspects of what it is that we consider the main ideals of photography. So looking at this, the results were that there was a 67% market share after the launch, increased brand awareness from 26% to 40%, and most importantly, we did accomplish that repositioning of the category. The things that were involved in this were websites, social media, an extreme direct mail campaign, an idea box, which was a physical mailing box to come up with creative ideas, out of home, and events.
Canon EOS has a history as a leading brand of DSLR cameras. To redefine the way people interact with the brand, we saw an opportunity to not just focus on the technology of the camera, but on the creativity of photography as an art form. We began with the simple insight that great creative leaps in history haven't just come from individuals, but have come from collaborations, where people can connect and share ideas. But photography, on the other hand, is something which people traditionally create on their own. And so we built a new space for photographers as a crossroads for collaboration, the world of EOS. A multi-channel platform which houses a series of community projects to set the stage for photographers to collaborate and turn their creativity into something bigger than the sum of its parts. We began with 3 simple principles of photography. The first step was to redefine how photographers are inspired by creating new ways for them to inspire each other. We created a webisode series called Seconds With, exploring the idea that while pro photographers spend decades behind the lens, the shots they value most add up to just fractions of a second. This content became a new channel for pros to share their experiences and pass on their passion for photography. To further expand photographers' creative ability, we created tutorials which give personal insights into the craft of photography through an ongoing collaboration with the growing community. We knew that more
You might say that, this is all well and good to have big brands because you have a large audience to attract. You can go out and you have brand names such as Kellogg's and Canon and Walgreens to push out there. And that's true. that's also one of the challenges because you have a lot more competition. So we looked at other things around the world, and our agency in Warsaw came up with an intriguing answer to a question. Sukienice is a museum in Krakow, and it has been recently restored to its former glory, and it's a traditional museum. The problem is that they thought that, particularly in a very young city like Krakow, that they weren't going to get a lot of people to actually come and see the exhibits that they have and to enjoy the restoration, which was very painstakingly done. So we came up with a novel approach. And the results of this was that through this approach, we got 20% of the population of Krakow to come within the first few months. And that's growing. Consider what would happen if we got 20% of the city of Chicago to go to the Field Museum someday and look at what happened there. Again, the things that comprise this campaign were interactive events, a very heavy print and direct mail component, and a very interesting use of out-of-home.
Sukienice Museum, one of the oldest in Poland, was going to be opened after a complete renovation. The problem was young people don't find it interesting at all. How can we attract them? We brought paintings to life and showed their stories. Stories of war, love, crime, madness, mystery. We told it in a way a museum never did before. We created New Sukienice, an app which brings paintings to life.
I command the army to unleash hell on earth.
I don't mind people calling me a whore, wanton, or a harlot. In every capital I have a lover, sometimes more.
Mad. Rage took control of him. And I cut to pieces my opus vitae here in this museum.
In the mist of secret herbs, I shall tell your future. I shall see your inner self.
I command.
Young people could also contact paintings outside the museum, all thanks to interactive billboards. They loved it so much that getting a ticket in the first 4 months was virtually impossible. Media also noticed our campaign. The 3 biggest television networks in Poland made headlines out of it on the news, and it was also a hot topic in the press and on the internet. Thanks to all that buzz, the museum attracted almost 20% of Krakow's population, and the number is still growing.
So, when we start looking at what the real value of print is, it's not just what we thought in the beginning. Yes, it's all of those things as well, but it really acts as an integrator. It acts as the base on which a lot of the rest of these things happen. It is that element that attracts you in the newspapers, in the magazines, in the billboards, in the direct mail pieces. It reaches out and grabs you. And then you look at all the rest of the channels of the touches that happen, and that's what really reaches out and completes this program. Any one of these channels by themselves would not be nearly as powerful as all of these taken together, and that's very, very important. So when we go back out onto the floor today and think about the power of print, I'll leave you with just one more thought. I'm sorry for all this back and forth, but what can we do? Okay, I'm going to leave you with one more thought. Where did it go? Okay, I lost my final video. I'm very sorry. Okay, oh, here it is. Sorry.
Sarah, long time no see.
Hi, your sister looked beautiful.
Oh, thanks. You too. You know, you look like you've lost a ton of weight. See that girl over there with the brown hair? Really high maintenance.
That's my fiance.
Hey, Aunt Kay.
Hey, it's Barbara.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, Kay was my Uncle Bill's second wife.
Yes, I know that.
Sorry. Can I have your attention? Can I have everyone's attention, please? I'd like to say a few words about my sister.
Oh, no.
I'm not really very good at this kind of thing, but here goes.
Oh, it is gonna be good.
Angie, you've been blessed to find someone you can move through this life with. Together you've learned that love doesn't just happen. You have to create it, craft it, and nurture it. It can be even better when it's been held in the palm of the hand and cradled for a while. You've grown a love that is enduring and stunning in its beauty. Congratulations on your wedding and continuing to create your lives together. I didn't actually write those words, but I do mean them. I love you, Angie.
That was beautiful, Chris.
Now eat up, everyone. My mom paid like $2,000 for that cake.
So, the power of print. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have or any comments. Yes, sir.
For the museum one.
Yes.
What kind of code do you use for your smartphone?
Oh, yeah. No, I actually can't tell you that. Not because it's secret. I just don't know. There are, when you look at smartphone, one of the problems that we have in production, and we're going across, is we have this myriad of channels. And the last time I counted, which was yesterday, there are 55 different channels. You can't possibly produce a message across 55 channels, and 22 of those are for mobile phones. So, you know, at some point as we go forward, you know, we're going to have to start gathering some of this together and come up with different ways of doing this. There's so many apps out there going in so many different directions, and every 3 months the cellular phone, you know, situation changes. So that will be a continuing problem going into the future. Yes, sir.
What can we take from this or application as far as business to business?
Business to business, again, reaching out and entering into a relationship with that business. So if you know, I would look at business to business communication in this context as no different than consumer engagement. You've got to go out and have a message. You've got to go out and reach the businesses where it is most applicable. So whether that's a direct mail piece, whether that's kind of an event marketing situation, whether that's, you know, for instance, in our situation, the Print Council is a great spot to go to bring in information that helps you reach out to folks. Using, good, didn't get any feedback there, sorry. You know, using things like Print in the Mix, which is a paid political announcement. But if you look in here, there's absolutely phenomenal stuff, and online, it's wonderful. It's a great source of information on things that you think your clients are going to be interested in. And if you have a particular one, or you have a client that's interested in a particular niche, go here and find out about it. It's got a tremendous reach into the industry to come up with what what really are solutions to everyday problems. So I would view, and we do have, a fair amount of B2B clients, and you really have to approach them on their ground, much like you would a consumer. And obviously you're not talking to millions of them, or maybe you are, and good for you. You're not talking to millions of them, but what you want to do is really craft that message so you engage them, you have touches for them, and you enable them to reach back and embrace the story that you're trying to tell. Pardon? The mix is going to be different, yeah. But, for instance, if you have a client that's really into social media, you may want to gather things around that and, bounce something over to them and say, hey, there's an article in Print in the Mix. Here's the site. Bounce it over to them. Here's something that's happening in town. You need to see this. There's a phenomenal display over here. We need to go look at that. So you can engage the different techniques in a variety of ways, and whether that's social media, whether that's email, whether that's any of those contacts. Quite frankly, writing a letter, put a stamp on it, and send it to them sometimes is a very effective way to do that as well. But the principle is the same. You've really got to engage people differently. You just can't push information at them. You really need to reach out and bring them into the story that you're telling. Any other questions? And thank you very much. I appreciate your time.